100 different flesh tones. The shadow side of the flesh tone is a different color. The reflected side of a flesh tone is a different color, and all of those colors are important if you want to get a portrait that looks like a portrait. And so rather than, and the other problem is if you try to buy them, there are 4 or 5 different places you can buy fabrics from, but none of them have exactly the colors you're looking for. And if you order them, you have to order them in 3 and 4 or 5 yards at a time, and it takes forever to get them. When I dye my fabrics, I can, if I need 4 or 5 different colors, I can be sewing in 2 hours. So it's actually, for me, it works really well. I have put together a video, I think if Nick is still online. It's about a half an hour long. It shows the process, and then after the video, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them or show you whatever, and we can talk some more. So is Nick there? Nick?
Okay.
Yes, that smiling girl.
There we go. So now you should see me. I'm running through batteries like crazy.
Total bomb.
Yeah. So real quick, just as a reminder, there is a recording going, and we will post this after the fact. I highly suggest, because Ron's mic is, it's rather quiet, which I'm going to mute him for a second just so we're not getting feedback. But Ron's mic is rather quiet, so I suggest you turn on the closed captioning option that is built into the software. That will really help you hear or see what Ron is saying. And it'll also translate what everyone else is saying. It's a very great feature that's part of Google Meets. So with that being said, hopefully you caught the first part, the introduction from Ron Bohart and what he does. He does a very interesting set of applique. It requires very specific, unique colors, and he hand dyes all of those pieces. And let me pull up the video we have for him. So it'll take just a second.
Andre Chichak, Andre suggested that his speakers are too loud or something.
Yes, part of that was his mic was picking up his speakers, so I just turned off his mic for the moment. Mm-hmm. And this will take a minute for the presentation to pop up. There we go. All right. Oh, that's an interesting spot for that to freeze at. I'm sorry, Ron. All right, so I'm going to play this video. If you have questions during the video, I highly encourage you to use the chat feature and to set a question apart from a standard statement. It's easiest if you put a question mark at the beginning, and I'll show you an example. So here's an example. I've posted in there, question mark, what is your favorite kite? That makes it very easy to scroll back through and see the questions so that we can answer questions at the end of the session, or that Ron or myself can see it and answer it directly during the session. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Let me minimize some other things, and I'm going to mute my mic.
Hi. I'm Ron Bohart. The video you're about to see is how I hand dye RipStop fabric. Let me just say up front that dyeing RipStop fabric is not for everyone. It's messy. It isn't difficult, but a lot of times the results you get are far from perfect. It fits fine for what I do because most of the fabric I use is on portraits or organic subjects, and if the dye job isn't absolutely perfect, it really doesn't matter to me. The dyes that I use are I-dye poly dyes, a dye made by Jacquard. There are other types of dyes that you can use for RipStop. Acid dyes work fine, and Jacquard acid dyes come in many, many colors and are much brighter in respect with than the dyes that I use. But I have never used acid dyes because what I use is peachy for me. So if you make kites that are dependent on bright, perfect colors, this is not what you should be using. Anyway, as I said in the beginning, this is the techniques that I use to dye the kite, the fabric that I use in my kites. So sit back and enjoy. Hi, I'm Ron Bohart. I get asked from time to time how I dye fabrics and how I dye RipStop. And so this is a short video of the process that I go through to dye RipStop fabric. I hope you enjoy it. This is Texline white 3/4 ounce RipStop Nylon. I use Texline because it is the, in my opinion, it is the whitest white. It's very heat resistant, which some of the fabrics aren't, which means you can iron it easily without damaging it. And it dyes very well. I have had no examples in 10, 12 years of my dyed fabric fading. A little bit. All fabric's going to fade some, but it really doesn't fade a lot. So as a material, Texline white is what I use. I get it. It's a company in California. I use seconds, not first. Seconds run about I don't know, $3.75 a yard for 54-inch material. I buy it in rolls, and that's what I use. The dye I use is a dye made by company Jacquard in France. I think they're in France. It's called I-dye poly, and it's made specifically for polyester fabrics, which nylon is, and it works great. It's very simple to use. The packages run about, I don't know, $5-6. I get them for about $3.50 at Joann's with a coupon. I'm in 8 colors: yellow, orange, red, violet, brown, black, green, and blue. And with those colors, I can dye pretty much any color I want. I very seldom ever use black, even for grays, because the black dye sometimes has a little graininess to it that I don't really like. So, but interestingly enough, what I'm going to show you is dyeing 4 shades of gray that I'm going to start using on a kite. I-dye poly comes in a packet. There's two parts of the dye. There's a gelatin-filled capsule full of dye, and another packet that's color intensifier. I usually use about half of a package of dye because I have a small canning container that I do my dyeing in, and I use about half of this packet. I don't drop, the instructions say you can drop the whole thing in and the gelatin will disappear, but I found that the gelatin sticks to the side of the can inside the container, and sometimes it'll transfer to your material and create streaks and spots. So I cut the packets open and just dump it out. I usually use about half when I'm dyeing. Sometimes I even use less. So the color intensifier you put in with the dye, and unfortunately, when you use half a bag of dye, you use all a bag of color intensifier, and the next time you want to use the dye, you don't have any. So I found that using
a little bit of liquid dish detergent, just a little few drops of squirt, does this pretty much the same thing as the color intensifier. I think it's basically just a wetting agent. When I start a job, I figure out how many colors I'm going to need and what the colors are, and how much fabric I'm going to need of each color, and then I automatically double that, because you can never match another color. You can never match a color. Each color you dye is going to be unique. So you need to make sure that you have enough material dyed to do your job. And if there's some left over, I store it in a bin, and I have hundreds of colors from over there that I've built up from saving. So a lot of times I can build a kite, never have to dye any material. I've got it all in my bin over there. Okay, so I've got my dye going in the other room on the pot. This is a fresh piece of, I'm about ready to dye this, a lighter color. Again, turn my water on about lukewarm and wet the fabric thoroughly. What that does is it allows the dye to flow in and through the fabric, and it eliminates any dry spots that might happen when you dump the fabric into the hot dye. Dry spots make a change in color. This is an imprecise kind of thing. It takes practice and it takes some perseverance to get what you want. But in the end, it's a whole lot easier than waiting. I'm not one who likes to wait much. The dye packets come with a packet of dye. Iodide poly. You come with a packet of dye that's in a whatever they call that stuff, Jello. And they say on the package that you can just dump this in, but I found that gelatin melts and sometimes adheres to the side of the container, and it rubs off on the fabric and creates streaks and dark spots. So I cut the packets open with a scissors or a knife and just sprinkle it in as much as I need. I don't usually ever use a whole packet. Most I've ever used is about half with this amount of water. And it also comes with a packet of color intensifier, and you'll use that when you open the packet, and then if you use half a packet, you don't have any more color intensifier because you've already used it. But I found that just using a little bit of dishwashing detergent, liquid dishwashing detergent, just a little squirt, acts pretty much the same way. It's just a wetting agent, I think. Okay, now I'm going to take this into the sink and rinse it. Okay, here we are at the laundry sink. This is the material I took out of the dye bath. What you do is you just rinse it under water here until it runs clear, until the dye runs clear in the sink. Making sure you get all the excess dye off. This is a small piece. I usually do larger pieces, but I'm working on a piece at least 3 or 4 colors of gray. So I'm using smaller material. So what I'm showing you is, well, this is warm water. It's not real hot, it's not real cold. It's just, hand washing warm. Okay, once you get it good soft, squeeze the excess water out of it. And here we are at the ironing board, which is also in my laundry room. I have my set my iron up to just below the steam. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just below the steam setting. This gets hot pretty quick. Wet rips up on the ironing board. Ironing takes most of the wrinkles out. When you dye fabric like this, you're not going to get all the wrinkles out. It's not going to be like it comes from the factory, all crispy and everything. But for what I do, the type of stuff I do, it works out really well. Iron it out. You can see where it's wet, where it's dry. Now this takes about, to do a piece like this, I can do one color in about 20 minutes. You think about all of the time it takes to decide on a color, make your order from wherever. You got to pay for it. You have to order 10 yards or something like that usually. And then you have to wait for it to come. And there's probably, I don't know, a week or more, if you're lucky, before you can use it. Flop it over. Pretty simple. You're not going to get all the wrinkles out, but after you've flown the kite a few times, it's going to be all wrinkly anyway. So. I sort of figure this is like a pre-flown kite, and I use a lot of really small pieces in my applique, and the wrinkles don't matter anyway. Okay, there it is. Dry. Ready to sew. Okay, now I got that piece dyed, and what I want to do is dye another color that is lighter. I take the dye that I got here and I dump half of it out. And then refill the pot with clean water. And yes, it does booger up the sink a bit, but it comes out with bleach. And I've done hundreds of yards this way. Fill it back up to about the level it was. And maybe a little fuller, it really doesn't matter. I'll watch out of it. Dye all over me. It's kind of an arbitrary thing, but put it back on the stove. back up to a boil. Here I have my my dye pot on the stove, and it is boiling. I'm going to just stir it up a bit and try to eliminate the band. You'll see a band forms, the dye band forms on the top of the water, and if you don't try to minimize that sometimes you get smears on the fabric a little bit. So the water is boiling. I'm going to turn it off because that's plenty hot. And I've got my wet RipStop fabric here. This is Texlon, by the way. Texlon is my favorite fabric. It is the whitest white of any of the fabrics, and it dyes really well, and it irons really well. It takes heat. So you stick it in there, you kind of poke it down with a stick to try to drive most of the air bubbles out as it goes in. And then you just stir it. If you want a really, really good solid color, you need to leave it in here about 20 minutes. But for kites, I found that as little as 10 minutes works fine. You can see how much lighter that color is than the other one, but that's what I wanted. I wanted a same hue, the same dye color, just a lighter color. And I'm going to do this probably 2 more times to get a lighter gray and even a lighter gray. I only use black dye for grays. Most of the other colors I mix. I dye poly dyes, and they come in. You can get them at Joann's and some of the craft stores. They're about $4 or $5 a packet. There's 8 packets that you can buy. There's black, brown, yellow, orange, red, blue, green, and violet. I seldom ever use black. I usually mix my colors using a little of this color and a little of that color to get the desired hue I want. Put this off a bit. Here we are back at Rinse Central. Again, you don't want the water too hot because it'll burn your hands. Rinse it until the water runs clean. I can do probably 3 yards maybe of 54 or 60-inch fabric this way. I try to dye 2 to 3 times as much as I need. So I keep the other stuff left over, because every color is unique when you dye. And you know what? I got so many colors now and so many pieces of dyed fabric saved that a lot of times I can build an entire kite, complex entire kite, without ever dyeing anything. I just go into my stash. Okay. I'm going to squeeze the big parts of the water off. Now we're back to the ironing board. Again, I've set my iron at just below the steam setting. I don't know if you can see that. You want it hot enough to dry the fabric, but not too hot. A lot of people are hesitant to dye RipStop, but I've been doing it for so many years. It really isn't a big deal. All you have to do is, when you're starting out, is be careful and try it on a piece to make sure your iron isn't too hot. You want it hot enough to, if you're drawing dry RipStop, you want it hot enough to iron out the wrinkles, but not hot enough to melt the fabric. Iron on a bit. You see the glossy go away, that's the water. I found that ironing it, you can dry it, get it ready to use in the sewing machine from the time you cut a piece of white to dye it, dry it in about 20 minutes. I can do half a dozen colors in about 2 hours. Versus 2 weeks waiting for it to come from somewhere. You know, that if you're really interested in getting the colors you want, sometimes you have to order from 2 or 3 places. And that kind of complicates that. I use standard colors from Texlon and some of the other manufacturers, but I don't use much of it. I'm doing a big hunk of background that needs to be, I don't dye black, I buy black. And some of the other colors I have a stash of, like red and blue and green, and you know, for backgrounds and stuff like that. But we have now this is a lighter gray. You see the difference in the colors from the first one to the second one. And it's even more evident if I put it up to the light. And now I'm going to do it again to get yet another one, another lighter color. And I'm going to do it again to get another lighter color. So all in all, it's pretty simple. You can see the 4 colors I dyed this morning. 4 shades of gray. This is black to give it a contrast. I use Texlon fabric. I use seconds. Costs about, I don't know, $3.75 a yard at Texlon for 54-inch seconds. What this is. And it irons well. It's coated on both sides. It took me about an hour and a half to do these 4 shades from start to finish. And they are ready to cut and use. No waiting. I didn't have to wait for 7 to 10 days for my order. I got the colors I wanted because I dyed them. I didn't have to get them from 2 or 3 different places because not everybody carries these colors. And there you have it, dyeing for a color. If you want to talk to me, touch base, I'd be glad to do a video chat. If you have problems, I can answer them if I can. PM me on Facebook. And that's it, dyeing for a color. I'm Ron Bohart. See you on the field.
All right, let's see if I can pin myself to the main screen so you can see me. Thank you so much, Ron, for that video. I'm not sure if you can see that there is a ton of questions in the chat. And again, everyone, I suggest you turn on your closed captioning. And Ron, it may help if you turn down your speakers so that your mic is able to pick up the sound a little bit better. I believe you're muted at the moment, so you will need to unmute. Your first question, let's see. Let me scroll back down. What vendor are you getting the fabric seconds from? Ron, your mic is still muted, so you might have to unmute it.
Am I on now? Can you hear me now? I ordered my product Texan in California. I ordered 54-inch first, run about $7 and $8 a yard. I use seconds. I only use seconds. This fabric is made for sailboat spinnakers, and they have an inspector that runs through when they're doing a roll. They run through and inspects it, and he'll mark portions of the run as not coming up to first standards, and they roll those off and put them on rolls, sometimes 50, 60 yards at a time, and sell them as seconds. And they run about $375 a yard for 54-inch, and I think about $4.50 for 60-inch. And it's just, for what I do, there may be a little thread pull on the edge. For every 6 feet, there'll be a little blue dot or something, a tiny blue dot. I've only found in a couple of rolls that I've gotten from Texan what the second actually, what turned the fabric into a second. So for what we do for kite building, seconds are great. And you know, $375 a yard is a good price for fabric. You can only get seconds in black and white. Sometimes you can get seconds in black, mostly white. All the other colors are that they distribute, that they manufacture, they only sell first, or they hardly ever have them. So.
Awesome. Sorry, I was kind of munching away there for a second on carrots. I didn't mean to be so loud. Let's see. Scrolling back up to the next question. Let's see if I find it. How long is your standard soak in the dye bath, from which you might vary for darker or lighter colors? So let's say that first soak.
I usually, if I'm dyeing a color that I've mixed in the beginning, I usually, the longer you soak it, you can soak it up to an hour. I usually get around 20 minutes. What you get for soaking it longer is you get a little more uniform color, although I found it really doesn't matter a whole lot for what I do. About 20 minutes.
How many gallons of water are in the pot, and how many yards are in the pot at one time?
I think my pot holds about, I don't know, 5 gallons, something like that. It's a standard canning pot. But one thing you should know, if you use a pot for dyeing, don't use it for anything else. I can tell you, no matter how you clean it, you can clean it with anything, and there will still be some residue in it. And we had a very interesting group of mashed potatoes from Thanksgiving one year.
It doesn't sound tasty.
They tasted great. They were just a strange color.
All right. Does the dye degrade the coatings on the fabric?
I haven't found that at all. You're going to get wrinkling. Anytime you boil fabric, you're going to get some wrinkling. And but to be honest, I mean, this is a piece of fabric that you saw that I dyed in that video. Okay, it still has the coating on it. It has some wrinkles. The ironing that I do takes most of the wrinkles out. But after you fly a kite a couple of times, you're going to have wrinkles on it anyway. So it really doesn't, after you've flown a kite. It's kind of like free-flying. If you're a Simon Craft kind of a kite builder, this probably isn't the way you should go. Because if you're the type of person that needs your RipStop squeaky and exactly the same color and all of that, the manufacturers do it better. But for the kites I build, I can't buy the colors. I have to dye them.
Let's see. Can you save the dye instead of pouring it out and use it later?
When I first started dyeing years ago, I had some 5-gallon buckets sitting around that I got from a guy who was a wine maker, and I started pouring the dye into those buckets and keeping them. But after I got about 20 buckets, and I never wanted to go back and dye exactly the same color. I just sort of poured them down the drain. And I mean, when I start a dye job, I usually dye about 4 colors. If I'm dyeing a flesh tone, I'll do a dark flesh tone, I'll do a medium flesh tone, I'll do a light side flesh tone. And I usually dye 2 to 3 times as much as I'm going to need, and then I save it, store it.
So you dilute the dye rather than change the soak time?
I will tell you, let me, when you put dye in a pot with water and then you add fabric, it takes a little bit of that dye out of the water. And if you put another piece of fabric in that same pot just right after it, those 2 pieces of fabric will not be the same color. The first fabric will take some of the pigment out of the water. The second fabric will take some more pigment out of the water. It's just impossible to do two dyes and try to hit the same color. It can't be done.
Hey, Ron, I think I asked this and maybe the question got skipped, but how many yards do you get in that pot? So when you're doing a piece of fabric, you were doing a yard in the example, but if you're making 2 to 3 times what you need, what is the number of yards you'll put in there?
Most of the kites I build are 60-inch rocks. So if I'm going to do a dye color for a background for a 60-inch rock or a 72-inch rock, 6-foot rock, I will dye probably 3 to 4 yards at a time.
So each tone you'll do 3 to 4 yards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I save it.
Yeah, got it.
You never want to run out. You never want to run out because you'll never be able to dye that color again.
So we have a question about, have you ever tried tie dyeing by twisting the fabric or try tie dyeing colored fabric?
Yeah, I have. And it works fine. It works great. I do it if I want a blue sky with clouds in it, I'll do a tie dye. I don't know, some of you may have seen the Disney sort of kites I do that I give to festivals to sell in their bag raffles and things like that. And I did some cloudy skies in those. Yeah, you know, it works great. You just, you know, rubber band it up and stick it in the die and.
Oh, sorry, Mitch. I didn't mean to skip over your question there. Does leaving it to soak longer make a darker color or like a fade? Is the time the important key there?
I think time is important up to about 20 minutes. After that, it really doesn't get much darker. The thing about dyeing fabric with iodide polish is it's so easy and it's so quick that you should experiment with it. I mean, just, you know, go out and do it. You'll learn so much just doing it once. You do it once and it's all of a sudden it's like, why wasn't I doing this all along?
Because I don't have a second stove.
Well, that's a good point, actually. It can be kind of messy. Well, you saw my stove.
A couple of years, I just want to say a couple of years ago, I haven't done this in probably 2 or 3 years, but a couple of years ago, I tried getting into this, and it may be because, Ron, I saw one of your presentations at the AKA conference, but it was worth my going to St. Vincent de Paul and buying one of those little 2-burner plug-in stoves, you know, hob. So I don't have a second stove, but for a couple of bucks, you can go to Savers and get one of those little electric counter.
Yeah, so Mitch, during this presentation, I was on Craigslist searching hot plates.
Ah, great mind.
So Ron.
Buy the electric ones with the coil. Don't get those kind of magnetic red.
Oh, the induction, yeah.
Yeah, well, I use an induction plate and it works fine.
Well, I don't know. I can't get them to get them.
Well, you have to use the right. You have to use the right pot. They have to have
stainless
steel in them. Yeah.
You need a bigger garage, Ron. More equipment in it.
One thing I may suggest on acquiring pots for dyeing is go to your local Goodwill or other places that people donate to and pick up canning pots because they're cheap and you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. That's what I did for dyeing my nylon kite parts that I 3D print. So
once again, Ron mentioned something that hits home, and it's been across all the conversations today, and that is experiment, experiment, experiment. Nothing comes easy, whether it's applique, color dyeing, all these techniques that we've been talking about for a couple of days now, and some more tomorrow with Jill. You have to try stuff out. There's no quick answer. Those answers only come when you find the results that you want, and they may happen right away, or it may take months to get it. So once again, I heard something from Ron there that there's a lot of years of experimenting before he was able to get this technique down, the colors exactly the way he wants them. And by the way, Ronnie, while you're talking, I was translating for the Spanish-speaking people and giving details in Spanish of the chat.
Oh, yeah.
That enabled me to do that on this particular chat, so I'm not doing the talking. Now, Mitch, hombre is spelled with an H, okay?
Be nice, Gibeon.
I am.
It's a fair question. Is how would you do a gradual fade? So if you wanted a fade color, could you do that with dye?
Trevor Reeves told me a couple of years ago that he tried it, and I have thought about it long and hard about how you could do it, but I got to tell you, I think I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I can do it. It's basically just a case of holding the material up. So you put it in, the bottom's in for a long while, and then you just lift it up, lift it up, lift it up, and you can do it that way.
Yeah. Is that what?
Awesome.
It's that easy.
Is it going to be striped?
No, it actually fades up. Watch my presentation tomorrow, and you'll see how I do it.
A really gradual roller.
Yeah, a really gradual. Yeah. Just hold. You just have to stand there and hold it.
Lindsay's going to 3D print some rollers for us.
I know you can do it with fabric dyes, like Diane and my techniques. You basically put water down, and then as you paint across with the fabric dye, and it rolls into the water, it starts fading up and then blocking. And you can actually work it up in to make it a more gradual fade across a bigger area. But that's a completely different technique that we've been talking about here.
Any other questions?
All my dad's done. Anything that
Are there any other questions out there? Other than us giving Mitch the new nickname of Hombre.
That's something else. He spells it hombre. You know, I just got done talking about Spanish and I said hombre, so I'm apologizing. So I'm asking, what does hombre mean?
It's a color fade.
Ah, sorry. Wrong. Nick is chewing me out and thinking that I was being mean. Not at all. Just see, I didn't know. I'm learning something new all the time here.
I thought it was hilarious.
You know,
It's
I just
okay,
got done talking
given-
about Spanish and you said hombre. And I said, oh, okay. Hombre.
Yeah, no, we've given Mitch a new nickname now because of it.
Oh, okay. The hombre. Okay, Mitch, we got you. Good stuff. Sorry about that.
No worries. I will leave it open for just a little bit longer if anyone wants to ask a question. I'm going to mute my mic and just kind of leave the floor
Yay.
open.
I'd like to ask Ron one last question, and that is when, you know, do the colors mix the way people say they do? So, you know, you can make green with the blue and yellow, and you can make purple with red and blue. Does that really work like that, or it really is a matter of, you know, fiddling with the chemistry, or, you know, trying to find the right color?
And Bohart, you're muted, by the way.
Ron, you're muted still, sir.
And I think the Rons are multiplying.
Ron,
Unmute yourself.
mute yourself.
Ron, you need to unmute.
Yep, give him a second. I think he's trying to fix that.
Remember, he's old.
Oh, be nice.
Now, see, that was mean.
Well, it's true.
I went to school
Yeah.
to do all this stuff with color, but working with dyes is not. Dyes are not color. So when I say experiment, if you think about, okay, I want to dye a flesh tone. You know, I'm doing a portrait of Mitch, and I see that I'm looking at your face, and I'm thinking, okay, that's the flesh tone of Mitch. He's basically an orange person. So I would start out with orange, and then to dull it down a little bit, I'd probably drop in a little bit of green, just a little.
Make it fun.
Once you start adding green or something to orange, it goes brown real quick. So, and I usually take a couple of little swatches and I'll put the orange in, and I add a little green, and I'll mix it up, and I'll put a swatch in it and see what the color comes out, and maybe I add a little more green. But if you add too much, all of a sudden you got a green you got a green face. So it's kind of tricky. But once you get the base color down, going to the gradation, you know, you have the dark side of Mitch's face, and you have the bright side of Mitch's face, and you have reflected light in there. All of those colors are basically the same hue. So it's just a matter of getting the intensity and the, you know. So that's why I go for the dark. You always go from the dark colors first, and then lighter and lighter and lighter. And you can do. I can do a portrait. I do a portrait of with about 4 colors, 4 flesh colors.
But is it fair to say that you start with orange, or if you wanted to do somebody like Rabian or Steve Anderson, you pollinate. So for a guy like me, you start with orange. But for a paler person, you start with orange. Is that your basic skin tone?
I have to tell you, I didn't understand. Your voice was breaking up, and I didn't understand a word you said.
Okay. So for a face like mine, the skin tone was good. But if I were a paler person, you know, is orange your basic skin tone to start, or a paler person would start?
Ron, he's asking if you have a paler person, do you use as many colors
Oh yeah,
or tones?
You need a base color. You need a shadow color. You need a darker shadow. You need a light. You need something for reflected light. Reflected light will be a different hue than your face color, because the reflected light is picking up the reflection of, if you were standing next to a yellow wall, the reflected light in your face would be yellow. So when you analyze somebody's face to do a portrait, you kind of have to think about, okay, there's a shadow side, there's a dark, there's a side, there's your cheeks, and this part of your forehead up here are not real dark shadows, kind of a medium shadow. And then this is sort of the base color. You have lighter color on your nose and under your eyes. Your lips are going to be, you know, redder. All of the shadows around the mouth are usually in the red tones, dark red tones, dark browns, reddish browns, those kinds of things. It's just, we as artists, and I see we got John in here. He's I'm sitting here talking about painting faces, and we have all the face painters.
Hey.
When you start a portrait of somebody, you just have to look at it for a while and analyze what, you know, the colors. And once you've figured out the color scheme of the face, the rest is kind of easy, in my opinion.
Ron, do you use any software to like map the colors, to map the shapes that you're going to cut, or do you do it all by hand? Do you take a photo and kind of enlarge it and draw it out, or how do you go about that?
I do it a number of ways. I have software that helps. I do my patterns with software, and it's just so much easier.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Is that
Mario De Luca is asking the same question. Can you describe how you designed a kite from picture?
Can you describe how you design a kite from a picture? Well, I don't know.
Hey, Ron.
so?
This is Lindsay. Do you ever use the posterizing in Corel?
I use Photoshop. I use Corel. I use and a couple of other programs.
but there's the effects of posterizing where you could have a photograph.
Posterization works really well.
Right.
Any software that has posterization will give you something to work from.
So then once you posterize, you have a pretty good idea of what hues you need to make a face, for instance, and you'll go dye from that.
Not hues, values.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we got a color scientist here, so you got to speak the right lingo.
Yeah, I'm not a lingo.
But
Yeah.
some of the questions you're asking are, so for instance, posterization, what is that? When you pull a picture up on the screen, you've got 256 levels of red, blue, and green. But you don't want to have that many on your kite. So you said instead of having 8 bits, you knock it down to 4 bits. Now you only have 16 levels. Well, maybe that's too many. So you're going to have more like 3 bits of information to get yourself 8 levels. And that's how you can posterize within a hue, because they're all being knocked down the same way. The proportions stay the same. And your eye really only has 3 sensors. You have a red sensor, a green sensor, and a blue sensor. And you don't have a yellow sensor. So the interesting thing that you perceive yellow when your red sensor and your green sensor are being hit the same value or same amount, you perceive yellow. Same thing happens with purple. That's why you can't mix a good purple. When you have your blue sensor and your red sensor jangled the same, then you perceive purple. There is no actual purple frequency. So when you're mixing, you got to look at things spectrally. If you can find the spectral signature of your dyes, that can make a huge difference. So if you have broad spectrum yellow, what you're really seeing is everything from green all the way over to red is at the same level. And that allows you to mix easily with red. You can mix it with magenta, which is a purple, and it'll knock out the blue part. You can mix it with cyan, which is a blue-green, and it'll knock out the red part. And you can get every gradient in between. So you want to make sure of the dyes. If they're slot dyes, which means it's a very narrow frequency, you can't mix those worth diddly. They look great on paper or on a window, but they don't work for mixing. The broader the spectrum is on your colors or on your light makes a huge difference. And remember that when you're talking about dyes or pigments, you're talking about absorbing or taking out colors, as opposed to when you're talking about light emissions from a television screen, emissive, and then you're mixing the light that's coming at you. And I'm talking too much.
Yeah, I'm not ready for the 201 course yet.
Wow.
What I'm trying to say is
Wow.
if you take and put a blue and a yellow together and it doesn't work, it means you've got a blue that's a narrow slot and a yellow that's a narrow slot, and they won't mix.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And we thought we knew something about color.
This is another
Wow.
conference.
Yeah, hold on, guys. Hold on. So I
Holy
just
smoly.
I just pinned myself to the screen so you can see it. It is that time for me to jump out, and I need to actually go get a meal and use the bathroom. So feel free to continue having the conversation. The chat will continue to run. And it will also continue to record. So you guys can hang out here as long as you want. I got to go get a beer and a steak sandwich.
Yeah.
So goodbye, everybody, and look forward to seeing you either on the next session at 5
See you,
o'clock. Hold on. The next session at 5 o'clock, which is a fighter kite one, followed by a sport kite session. And then tomorrow we do have some more kite building, kite making sessions that kind of tailor in with this. We have, oh, excuse me, I need water. We have Jill Bloom, who's going to talk about her Applique and her dyeing techniques. And then we also have a long distance collaboration with Lindsay Johnson. So make sure to check the schedule. I'll also be sending out emails. And yeah, Lindsay, what did you have?
Oh, hey, Ron Bohart, if you muted yourself, we wouldn't be getting the feedback that we get. I think your speakers are too loud and
I was trying to make a pointer before I leave.
yeah, go ahead.
But you know what, please, Nick, I've been having trouble finding the address for each of these sessions. I'm not sure why I'm not finding them easily.
I'm having the same issue, so.
The best bet is to join the Facebook event page. All of the links are in there. They're also posted on the Fortuna Found website, so you might find them there as well.
Okay, I'll have to talk to you about that one. But anyway, okay. Go to the bathroom. Go, please.
Somebody's going to the bathroom right now.
I know it. We need to mute if we flush.
I hate to press this issue.
That's what it sounded like.
How do we know it's not Gibeon?
No.
No. But when you're looking for a skin tone, if you're looking at Ron or me, you're darker people. But the average skin tone is not equal. You're talking lower. I struggle to find a good skin tone.
Okay, just let me say something.
You're muted, Ron. You're muted.
Contrast is so much more important than the actual hue. Get the contrast right. It doesn't matter whether the face is yellow or blue or green or red. It's going to be right. Yeah. So contrast, correct, is really as important, very much as important as getting the color right. And unless you're doing something that's, changing the hue of a face. I mean, if you've probably all done this, had a photograph and put a red dye glass, what is that called?
Filter.
Yeah, over it, and it doesn't change the picture. It just makes it redder. So that's contrast.
Yeah, Ron, I was going to add the same thing, that value is just important, if not more important than color.
Right. And it can change the tone of what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing a portrait of something that's angry, you might want to do everything in the red shade. Yeah.
There's more
Ron.
detail in
sorry.
your rods than in your cones. So the black white is very, very important and gives you a lot more perception into it. Which is why when people are colorblind, they're still good with contrast.
Oh yeah.
Hey Ron, this is Mario. Remember me? I just wonder, can you tell us about your applique technique? Because you are using a different technique probably than Ron, Gibeon, and Ambassador. Can you describe us a little bit, talk about that?
Well, okay. My applique technique. I don't use black line. I don't know how to. It's pretty much standard applique, except that I don't build up layers of color, and then I do everything pretty much in sections. Here, I'll show you. That I'm working on. Part of it.
It resembles a lot what John Burkhardt used to do many, many, many years ago and still does. if the black was used, in my opinion, if the black was used in Ron's technique, it wouldn't work. It would, you know, the objectivity of his designs would change completely.
I do everything by color. I do everything in small pieces, and when I get the small pieces done, I join them and make bigger pieces, and then you make bigger pieces. That way you have, you know, you don't
So
have
you're not,
to drag around under your sewing machine, and you can do things a lot more, you know, a lot tighter and easier. I use a zigzag stitch, and then I cut away the material on the top and turn it over and cut away the other material on the back.
So did you use any glue or something to hold the pieces together?
Yeah, I use this.
No. Okay. Okay.
This is 100 light. It comes in 200 and 300. You want the lightest, and you use so little that you just want it to stay there while you're sewing it.
Right.
That's
and
it.
then do you clean it away with solvents afterwards?
I usually clean when I finish a kite. Before I do anything else with it, I usually go over the whole kite with lacquer thinner.
Mm-hmm.
I just wipe it down with lacquer thinner. But if you use just a little bit of that adhesive, it dries right away.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ron, can I go back to the question about the software?
Sure.
So you will posterize a picture using Corel or Photoshop.
Right.
And then after you've posterized it, you enlarge it to and print out the outlines to know what your templates or your pieces are.
That's how
Is
I
that,
make it, yeah.
are you printing it on just a regular printer and then stitching them all together, or do you? There it is. Okay. I was thinking maybe you had a plotter out in the garage.
No, I had a plotter, but my wife gave it away.
What? What?
A long time, so she gave it away. That's fine.
Ah, at the scale you're working for a lot of stuff, you need a plotter for those big foils.
Well, I used to build houses and I drew on my plans, so I had the plotter for that.
Next time she wants to give away a plotter, let me know.
Yeah. It was an old plotter. It was old, but it worked. It worked great.
I have a spring-loaded Sharpie marker in my 4x8 CNC router in place of a router bit. It works really well.
Lindsay, you have everything. You have everything.
It's unbelievable what this man has in his workshop. Been there many times. It's incredible. Incredible.
You know, and it's all multi-use stuff. So I mean, you know, it's not just for kites. I mean, I build a house full of furniture and cabinets and stuff, but I've just applied it to, you know, whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
So, but you can do, you know, if you're using Corel or Illustrator and you've got a kite design, you can easily go to Staples or you know, the Office Max and stuff, and have large stuff printed, because I mean, for something that's like 3x8 feet, it's going to cost you maybe $15. And I would rather spend $15 than spend 3 hours cutting and pasting 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper together. I mean, which I've done, but I
have such templates. I have such templates.
Yeah, Ron Gibeon, you know, he's been doing that and it works great.
I have probably 5 or 6 templates in the closet, you know, from, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, rather large pieces that I have not built yet. but I have 2 sets of full-size templates, you know, that I can spray onto the poster board to cut out, and then have a master pattern for assembly, and it really works well. You know, they got the big printers, you know, so most of the times all I need is a half. You know, as long as I have one half, I have the other side. So it works really well that way.
The problem I have is that I never build the same kite twice. I mean, if I did a portrait of Ron Gibeon,
Oh God.
who else is going to want one?
Well, true.
Let me rephrase. Let me rephrase. Who would want one to begin with? You know. I also build most of the times a one-off. You know, every now and then somebody wants something, so I have to do multiples. But you know, except for Revolution when we're doing that kind of stuff. But anyway.
Hey, once we get the CNC sewing machines up and running, I'll share that too.
Hey, do you ever cut the fabric first and then dye it?
Yeah. Oh, you mean to size?
Yeah, cut the shapes first and then dye it.
No, I never cut the shapes first. Ever.
Okay.
I cut the shapes first second. I sew the shape and then cut.
Okay.
I
So you
don't.
basically draw the shape you want on the fabric.
Yeah,
You
I don't.
cut it rough and then cut it down once you trim it off.
Right.
But you still could do the
Hey Ronnie,
technique
can you
Bazzer
make
was
me a
using.
portrait of Mitch Cordover, however?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ron.
Can you make me a portrait of Mitch Cordover? I would like that.
Sure.
Don't you mean hombre?
It's gonna break
Yeah, that guy.
the camera.
Look at that smile. Who
I'm
would
being
want that portrait?
Ladies and gents, excellent talk. Thanks.
See you later, Mitch. Take care.
See you in half an hour.
Sorry for the misunderstanding on hombre.
Oh no, there's no misunderstanding. From now on, I'm the hombre.
No, you could be the man in the faded jeans. You know, how would that go?
Yeah, right.
Hombre.
I think maybe we also need a Bohart portrait of Lindsay.
Ah.
You know that.
See you
On a
guys.
dartboard.
I was wondering when that was going to be said.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can throw some doozies out there too, you know.
All right.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Mario, chao, adiós.
Chao. Nos vemos, Ronnie. Gracias.
Nos vemos mañana, gracias.
Sí, gracias. Chao.
Chao.
Mario, you gone?
Yes, he's gone.
Okay.
God, that was an education we got from Dave Butler on color. Holy moly, Dave. Jesus.
I know. You have to rein him in once in a while.
Yeah.
See,
No,
Patrick
no, no, that was great.
Trying to
That
work
was
that
great.
out.
Jill is smiling like crazy, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was midnight trying to work that out. It's really complicated.
And
Hey, at least we don't have-
Andre's got a really serious look on his face. Andre, what do you think?
Well, I was wondering if it's because the yellow is so narrow band that your blue can't subtract anything because there's no frequency there to subtract.
Oh, that's a geeky
Correct.
question for
That's why you want a broadband yellow.
Yeah, which is why white works. It's because it's incredibly broad spectrum.
Pretty much.
Do you guys drink coffee or tequila or?
Hey, I don't want to get involved in this one because in my early years I separated colors out of film for printing
Yes.
presses.
Ron,
So-
this is no different than analog synthesizers that give you a broad spectrum white noise and then you put filters on it.
Oh,
If you have a narrow spectrum noise source and you put a filter on it, you're not going to take anything up.
Now you're getting into music. See, now you're getting into
It's all
something I know
music,
something
man.
about.
It's all
You know
music.
something about. See, you're
It's
speaking.
sound.
By the way, there is narrow spectrum white. Because
Yes.
all I need to have is a red gun, a blue gun, and a green gun, and I can make white. For
We
you.
are geeks. Complete geeks.
So, word geeks. I don't know about you, man. And what's this about music? I mean, you're a percussionist. You hang around with musicians.
Sound.
Oh, okay.
We're doing studio work, you know, we're constantly dealing with sound and noise and white noise, and I understand the soundboard. I've been in a million studios in my time, so all that language is familiar.
And
Now,
it's all the same thing.
That was in the days of analog. Today, digital. I've partaken in quite a bit of that, but I don't know as much as many people would on that aspect of things. And that also gets very geeky and very involved in conversation and terminology that most people don't understand. So.
Oh, you have no idea.
Yeah, I do.
One of the latest projects we were working on is a replacement for a patch panel.
Yeah.
So we have a digitally controlled patch panel.
Yep.
That we were my customer was showing it at NAMM last year.
I was there, the last one.
So it's a thing by a company called Flock Audio that's really cool. Anyway, it's for mixing studios and stuff like that.
I didn't go into the sound area. It's in a different. It's not in the big room. It's in the old convention center, Anaheim Convention Center. The band was performing, so I didn't get a chance to see much at NAMM this last time. So
my son was there in January. I'm not sure if you've ever met him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he looks just like him.
Yeah.
Just 30 years younger.
Except my son gets to rub shoulders with Bootsy Collins.
There's two of you, huh?
Come on,
Okay.
David.
Bootsy Collins?
Look up Bootsy Collins.
I feel old.
I must admit, I'm not familiar, but I will look it up.
That's okay. Anyway, good to see you again.
Very good to see you.
Oh,
yes, good to see you guys.
Sewing machines. Is there a FOF that is later than something like a 1222? That
1471s, 1473s, 1475s.
There's hundreds.
Something in the 14 series.
Hundreds.
Okay. Well, my dad went over to the recycle station one day, and somebody had dropped off a 1222 that had basically 0 hours on it. So he snagged that.
You couldn't buy a better machine than that.
That's what I'm thinking.
You could, yeah. I mean, that's the 12. I've got two of them here, a 21 and a 22. They're the original metal case. What you see is what you get, straightforward with the stitches, zigzag straight. Maybe a couple of decoratives, if anybody uses that. Not computerized, very straightforward German technology. They're fantastic machines, and they're durable. The only problem with them is finding parts.
Even they're not horrible, but you could probably find another one that you can strip.
Yeah. I mean, if you start finding old ones that are basket cases, you want to snag them, because you're going to need parts,
Around here, they're running about 450 Canadian.
Something like that, yeah.
That
Sometimes
isn't
a little less, sometimes more.
Yeah.
Oh, there is one thing though. The wiring, the coating that goes down to the light bulb.
Okay.
Will eventually start to rot.
Okay, that's easy enough.
It needs to be replaced. And
didn't know that.
That rubber can get into everything. It's just.
But once you see the rubber falling, then you can take it apart and put shrink tubing over it.
You should do that before, because it's already hit the. If it has not been replaced, it needs to be replaced now. It's over a period of years.
Because that's Dorothy got hers in, let's see, the late 70s, and it was used at that point. She's got an 1199.
Open it up. Open up the left-hand side, which you can't. It pulls off, and see what that rubber looks like. And if it looks gummy and nasty, just count yourself lucky that nothing bad happened, because you can just give up those gears.
Well, that's 110 volts, so that could, if it was to short, that could blow out the power board.
Yeah, I suppose it could. I know that one of the big things when I went down to one of the local stores, they said, "Oh, we have a 1222, and we replaced the blah blah, that coating." And because of that, they wanted $500 for it.
Woo! Wow.
I did not buy it.
Wow. Yeah, I was lucky. I fell off something. I did some damage with one of the arms, and the guy was actually, the repair guy was able to find the arm. I don't know where, but he found it, you know. So that's my backup machine. But I mean, if anybody's got a 1222, especially with 0 miles, the way you were talking about,
yeah,
that's a treasure. That's
yeah,
a
it's got, no wear in the paint, and I pulled off the top, and I think it said 1972.
Yeah.
Or 74.
So you have this machine.
My dad has it right now, but apparently I can borrow it anytime I want, which means please come and get it.
And of course, it's got the walking foot and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And then I tried the walking foot because neither Dorothy's machine or mine has a walking foot, and it's like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Okay.
It's the dual feed, you know. You can buy walking, you can buy aftermarket stuff, but it's not hooked, you know, it's to the cam. It will work and it will help, but it's still not going to be as effective. But then again, you know, it's a matter of preference. There's so many people sewing kites on other machines other than the FAF, you know. I swear by it, but it doesn't mean that that's the party line.
Yeah, Jose was big thing was the old singers from the 50s.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. If you can sew, I mean, if your work is coming out beautiful with a machine like that, you don't need this other stuff, you know. I swear by it because it works for me, just like all the other stuff that I've talked about. You know, you have to test, you got to run with stuff. Nothing comes easy. There's no instant gratification on any of these things.
It's like applique scissors. The tool that you're using is the correct one. Just because.
Not necessarily.
Not
necessarily.
Lindsay's in David's head. Just
like
and Dave's shaking his head too. No.
Left-handed
tools,
scissors,
and then there are rocks.
person. You learn to use right-handed scissors, applique scissors, if you're left-handed.
Right.
But if you don't really practice with them, you will be clipping threads all over the place. I know.
Yeah.
Try left-handed hair cutting scissors.
Well, actually, I found there's a place called Lefty down in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I got a straight applique scissor and a curved one.
Yep. Because Ginger makes their spoonbill applique scissors left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And I used my right-handed pair for years, and then one day I was talking kites with the person who cuts my hair, and the next time he says, "I have something for you," and gives me his hair cutting scissors that he hadn't used in 30 years because he got his new hair cutting scissors, which 30 years ago were $300, and he said, "You need these. They're incredibly sharp. They never go dull, and like they're about 4 inches long, and they are a lot sharper than my Gingers, which are incredibly sharp. And you just dress them with some just printer paper because it is clay coated." And they just sharpen up so nicely, and they're just beautiful for doing applique.
And back to the same thing again. I mean, I would have never imagined that someone would tell me that they're doing their applique work with the thread cutters. You know, I somehow cannot fathom that, but that's just me. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. There's plenty of people, I guess, using them for that, but you know.
Yeah, we were in a house at Fort Worden when Jose was there, and he was doing his applique with a seam ripper, and I sort of tilt my head and see.
Jose was actually doing it with that?
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he says, no,
Lindsay's going, that's a nub.
it doesn't matter. It's what you're comfortable with using is the proper tool for you.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a good attitude rather than getting into the whole gear thing all the time.
Yep. And
So
that applies to everything.
Sorry,
That applies
Lindsay.
to everything that we
Hey,
discussed here today.
those hair shears you're talking about, those are cobalt.
Not the
The
Japanese.
$300 hair shears are cobalt.
Well, the Japanese ones now are about $1,200, $1,500.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that they're cobalt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
because my sister was paying $300 a pair. This is 20 years ago for her cobalt shears.
yeah,
Shears.
you should get her Castaways.
Well, she's dead now, but no. No, she lost them, and that's when she quit.
No,
That would do it.
Yeah.
How many people we got in the chat still?
I think basically the four of us.
8.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are the others really there?
I don't know. Is
They're
Ron?
on the next thing. It's a different link.
Your wife isn't there. Mark Thorne isn't there. Steve and Child. Dave Gear.
We got this for the rest of the day if you want.
I'm still,
There's Mark.
yeah, I'm here. I'm
working.
Oh, there's Rhonda.
Oh, there's Rhonda.
You work?
I'm working
Lindsay,
as
you
we
work?
talk.
You work?
I'm putting lacing
No way.
needles
You don't
into
work.
kite winders for kids' kites for the.
Oh, okay. Oh, that kind of work. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Lindsay,
You
you
call
saw
that
your
work?
fittings on the back of Ron's kites.
What's that?
I saw your fittings on the back of Ron's kites. He was showing us in the Brits.
Oh yeah. It has my essence, my wisdom.
Well, since we got at least this group, let me do this again for them. I forgot about doing this earlier. I'm going to send you guys. This is the clean version because we can't get crazy here, okay? But I've got a video that I sent to Lindsay. Let me see. Let me turn the camera around.
Now he's
I
going
might
to start
not have watched
because he's not technical.
Hang on. Where's my video?
back pocket.
Hang on. Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
No, all I see is an ARF.
Wait.
You're invisible.
Are you presenting?
Can you see that now?
No.
Nope.
Huh. No, I just turned, let's see here.
I think you just turned off the camera.
There you go.
You're
You're back.
now, but you want to present something?
Wait.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah.
3 dots.
You were there, and then now you're gone again.
Finger.
Okay.
There.
Present screen.
You went away again.
No, he's trying to present either a tab or a page.
No,
Right.
what I did earlier is I just simply turned the camera around. I got you guys off.
Oh.
It's on time lapse. What
Huh.
the heck?
What are you trying to show?
The bee. The backside of the bee, the way you're describing.
Oh, you mean the fittings?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I
hang
got
on.
a question about the bee.
All I get is, what the hell happened here? All I'm getting is, wow.
Yeah, you keep going away.
Yes, I know. Hang on. I'm not getting the video thing going on here. I don't know why. If I take you guys off the screen, that's what I did earlier to show you all the applique stuff, you know, and it worked just fine. Oh, well.
So, Ron,
Yeah.
when you did the B and the templates,
Yes.
you cut out the template, you stick a bunch of black material on it, you cut it away. Then do you back butter the black with spray glue and then plop it down on top of the next layer, just so it doesn't collapse?
So we sprayed the back of the template. You
Yeah.
know, first. Then we applied to the black, and then we cut all of it. Okay?
You talking about the Humble Bumble?
No, it's not similar technique also.
Well, no. I was wondering if Andre was talking about you talking about the round bee or the Tomitomo bees?
I'll give you a hint. I've never seen either of them.
Oh, okay.
Well, because I was showing the bee thing earlier, you know, I think
Right.
that's what he's asking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah. So,
Template, spray glue, black.
black, hot cut.
Yeah.
Then turn it over. Then we turn it over.
Yeah.
And then we start applying all the pieces in there.
So you do a little bit of spray glue on the back of the black.
And that's right. And then we start piecing stuff and finding order, you know, placing all those things, you know, like the wings that are already, you know, it's a rough piece that's already sprayed, you know, with a fade. The next wing, and then the center sections have a lot of black in it, so we have to put the yellow in there for the stripes and the yellow. And you just layer it the same way as you would layer the others, except you're already with the scissors kind of like rough cutting.
Yeah.
You know, the pieces so they lay in there. So when you apply it to the skin, you don't see any of that cutting at all.
Right.
You
It'll
would see
all be
white or
colored
red or whatever color you're applying it to. It hides everything.
Cool. Okay.
So that's that technique. So it's something very similar to what you saw Bazzer describe, except his is all computerized, pre-cut, and there's, you know, everything's on screen. It's not, you know, he's not doing templates like I'm doing, you know, it's
Right.
already there programmed, you know, but the idea of it is very similar. And that's how you get those thicker, broader lines, okay?
And just put in bridges so that it holds together.
When we go to something bigger, like the swan, you know, where it's wide open all throughout the center, if you don't put bridges, you know, up the neck or any large design that's got a lot of open space and you want to do the whole thing, and
So
he's
Yeah.
showing you how
this
how
is the
the
balance thing,
Lindsay's
you know.
showing
if you
how
keep-
we do
you
the
know,
other
I'm just
beat.
gonna spend a little bit more time cleaning, you know.
So that's after it's cut out, but
Say
it's
that
still
math
on
right?
the.
Is that what it
That's
is?
completely
Right.
yeah. It's a reverse process
It's
there
probably
that
faster,
we're watching.
you know, much faster.
Hang on, let me see if I can. I mean, this is, yeah, like he was saying, this is a different process, but
It's really cool.
I've
When you
got,
pull this off,
Mhm.
looks like etched glass.
Lindsay, what did you feed me, man? I got quite
Something
heavy
that's
there.
etched.
Holy
yeah, I know. That was in the Porky days. Anyway,
Jesus. I weigh half of that now.
yeah.
Must
Anyway, yeah, pasta.
Oh, hey, there. Yeah, like that.
These are talking. It's how we.
So you glue the black, stick on the frame, do all your cutaways, but it's backwards as well. Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this one,
and then-
you can do it the other way. We did it in reverse here. It works really well because it's easy to pull it off the glass. You know, so the secret is not to over tack the glass either. Just enough to hold the fabric flat. And it comes out perfect. It almost looked like it was printed, you know.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So this is collaborative stuff. This is
Chip
what,
in.
you know, Lindsay turned
so when you get
a,
into an area where you
basically
can't
a cardboard
see, like,
pattern.
Yeah, I
if
just
you wanna
make sure you
on
get
the
into
CNC
it
machine
and sharpen it.
and made these templates out of this material for me.
Oh, you can still get MEK down there. Okay.
And you can hot cut it, you know, with the
So
with the
Nick
iron.
won't want to put this into the tutorial. We got to watch our fucking language.
We have to
Yeah,
watch
God
our,
damn
Damn
it.
The language.
Take that,
oh,
Nick.
is this the one
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
language, Lindsay?
yes, yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh
Nick
no!
was freaking
This is
out on
where
this
we
one.
do it.
Yeah.
We're doing the nasty here.
Hi, Nikki, baby. You see me doing nasties here. Looky here. I'm just burning a bunch of useless shit here.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the
Alright.
fun stuff.
Well,
All right, I'll stop that.
Yeah.
we got it
Before it gets nutty,
somewhat, not like
because this
Yeah.
is getting recorded here. So.
I know it. I got to watch out. Nick's gonna
So anyway,
mute
where
us
was I?
forever.
Where was I with the previous thing? Yeah, the bridges connecting, you know, places where it's far spread, you know. So to keep the integrity of the design, you know, you need those bridges, and you leave them on there, and then you apply it to your fabric that you sew, and you just simply cut away those bridges when you're done with the scissors. You know, the bridges would be on black, obviously, you know, because of the front of the fabric, of the pre-cut. And believe me, I tried that swan without it. And on the first kite, and it was, oh my God, laying that flat after it was cut, it was unbelievable. It would not lay flat.
No.
You know,
Also, I have another thing. Since I do electronics for a living, we have the soldering irons that we use. They're temperature controlled and all that sort of stuff, but they're made to just be on all the time. Like you can leave them on 24 hours a day and they don't burn themselves out. But you can also replace the tips with big tips or really fine needle tips and stuff like that, so you can do some very intricate hot cutting. So I typically bring one of those to Fort Worden with me and just set it up and let it cook all day, and it has no problems. Although they're not $9.
yeah.
But I have had it for pretty close to 20 years.
Wow. You're lucky. You're lucky. I mean, maybe tomorrow, maybe later today, I'll dig up the pile of hot irons that I've got that were expensive and lasted maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And, you know, it's just crazy. And then I find this insignificant tool at Harbor Freight, you know, where you buy all the stuff from China, basically. And it hasn't burned up, and I've left it on many a nights on, forgetting to turn it off.
Oops.
And the next day it's still just as hot and doesn't burn out for $9. I mean, that's tough to beat, you know. The other cutter, on the other hand, the German cutter, those are very expensive, you know.
Yeah.
So.
This is an Amazon link that Spence Watty shared, and it's on a digital controlled soldering iron, 80-watt soldering iron, and all the controls are in the handle. Where I've got a Weller soldering station that's variable temperature that I use.
Right.
And I mean, and it was, I don't know, $60 or $70 at the most. And it's great. And it's got a really nice long flexible cord. But this one I'm intrigued with. It's $50. And it looks pretty cool.
It looks like it has the same guts as your Weller.
Yeah, but it's all in the pin. It's all in the handle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are no, are you stepping down? No. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that to last very long. Electronics doesn't like heat.
Yeah.
So if the active portion of it is hot, that's fine, but the control section should stay cold.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Like I now for kite making, I have my old Weller that I can't get tips for anymore because it's gone obsolete. And I just use it for cutting holes in Dacron corner pieces and hot cutting. And
I've burned so many Wellers. I gave up. You know.
I wonder if you're just running them too hot.
No, I mean they are what they are. You know, with no variable heat or anything, just straight out of the wall. You know.
Right.
So I don't know that and several other brands, and then out of nowhere I find this silly thing that I showed you guys, and
yeah, at $9 you can burn them up.
yeah, you know, but I thought I'd try one. I should go back to the store and buy more of them just in case they probably discontinued by now. You know how those people merchandise stuff. It's the flavor of the day, you know. You can find in a store like that, you can find something one day and then the next day is discontinued, you know.
Well, they do have some seriously bad stuff at Harbor Freight.
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
yes, they do.
I bought one of their little chop saws. Oh,
yeah.
God, what a piece of crap.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I have one here. But I also got a really good one. You know, not much larger than that one, and it cuts beautiful. You know, so.
I know contractors that buy Harbor Freight tools that they put them on the job site because sometimes their employees are only there for a couple days and they walk away with the tool, so they don't buy expensive stuff.
Yes. The people who did our house did exactly the same thing. They just, they usually get stolen before they burn out. So Dave Butler, how's the smoke down that direction?
We're good now. We were up at one point, we were 556 or something, or 565.
Worst air quality in the world.
Yeah, well, no, weed in California one day was 1,150.
Well, take a look. I'm not sure if you can see this. That is a bright blue sky. We are above 200 from getting smoke from California, Oregon, Washington. And it's all the way the hell up here.
We were sitting there, I guess about 3 days ago, we were up in the 300s and we dropped down to the 200s depending on what time. And then the rain came through, hit us twice, and now we're down between 7 and 30.
I'm actually watching a beautiful sunset here pretty soon. We actually had sunshine here today.
Oh, we're down to 76 now.
Yeah, we got low numbers. We got low numbers here too.
Yep.
We were
It
at,
was over a week. I didn't leave the house.
The air quality is much, much, much better. And the creek fire is still burning like crazy. So only 22% contained, and probably the biggest fire in California to date.
Well,
And it burned in an area that I was going fly fishing on Monday and can't get in there.
Yeah, Trump doesn't want to pay for it, but I guess he finally said he would.
Ah,
Yeah, they will. They will.
Yeah, well, there were several days where he's going, I'm not going to pay for them. They're blue states.
Nah.
then
He claims that he's got a good relationship with the governor here. I don't believe it, but whatever.
No, I don't either. I know the governor had to thank him for his help.
It's just talk. It's all big BS.
It's the federal government. They run the whole country, not just the red states.
all right.
What you got, Lindsay?
Nothing. Just
Anyway, guys, I gotta run.
Yep.
I'll see
Me
you all
too.
tomorrow.
Yes.
See you, what time are you on, Linz?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So I'll see you then. Thanks all of you guys for the cooperation, all the great questions, all the good stuff that happened today. It was wonderful. I had a great time. Andre, thank you. Everybody, Mark, everyone that's still on.
Yep, had a great time.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, very good to see you guys as well.
Hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
Yep, yep. Join on the collaborative tomorrow. That should be really really interesting. And and Jill Bloom, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we can see her techniques.
Then we'll talk color theory with Dave Butler and you guys.
Sorry, you can't hold me down on that.
It's like,
All is
hey,
good.
this is great. This is great. Oh.
She was very interested. She laughed and she was very interested. Don't be surprised if she asks again.
Okay.
It was making a lot of sense to me,
All right, guys.
especially
See ya.
colorblind.
See you later.
Okay.
Take care, guys.
I will see you later.
Ciao.
Yes, Lindsay?
Bye-bye.